ready? Well, hello everybody, I'm Haddon Lockyer of the Informed Youth of America, and I'm here with the editor of the local paper in our area, the Monroe County Beacon, Mr. Kreg Robinson. Thank you so much for being on today.
Thanks for having me, Haddon.
Now, for those of you that have watched my last video, I'm going to be going back and making some edits to that, but there was an article that was written in the paper by someone, and you guys know what was in that article. I shared a little bit about it, but I'm just going to go ahead and get my notes up. I've got some questions for him. Now, your political stance, you are a Democrat, correct?
Yeah, but I mean, when I'm doing general stuff, I prefer to, like, I don't want to put that type of slant. We don't need that in this newspaper, so I just kind of tend to, we don't really get into much of that type of stuff.
Right, there's not much politics in the paper, which is good. But for you personally, because some of these questions from this article, or the questions today, come out of this article. So,
which is a column by Honest Tom.
Right.
Let's get that straight.
Yes, alright. So,
where's the camera at?
The camera is just, the camera's right up there. So first...
Over there? Am I looking at?
Just right up there.
Oh, there, okay.
So first, before we get started, in Honest Tom's article, it says there was a big to-do the other day. Not sure if you noticed it or not. It was kind of hard to miss with folks trying to hang vice presidents and kidnap congressmen. I'm assuming Honest Tom was talking about the Capitol, correct?
I don't want to speak for Honest Tom, but I mean that probably is a fair assumption.
All right. Well, let's take your opinion here with Honest Tom's article. So, but you said, or Honest Tom said, so I noticed the funny thing about reactions to that event. Some folks were comparing it to other big to-dos over the summer, which is easy seeing as they're both in recent memory, which I'm assuming Honest Tom was talking about Black Lives Matter and Antifa with those other big to-dos during the summer. Is that correct?
I suppose that would be an assumption that we might be able to make.
All right. I was thinking, but I wanted to get some confirmation from you, the editor.
Well, again, I don't want to speak for Honest Tom.
Right.
So we're going to make inferences, and if I'm just looking at that, a lot of times when he writes stuff, he alludes to things.
Right. And I did mention that in one of the other articles or videos.
You know, but at the same time, he's going to write about stuff that don't make no sense either.
That's true.
You know, I mean, he wrote one about Jurassic Park. I mean, we all know that that's a movie, right?
Right. Oh, I think I do believe reading that one. I believe I remember that.
It was a classic. Sorry if I'm not talking loud enough, y'all. I got to remember to use my...
stage voice.
Correct. And that comes straight from Troy. Troy?
And well, it was going to be before COVID. But now, Honest Tom mentioned my group and me in this article after he talked a little about how the Capitol and Black Lives Matter cannot be compared because he said if you look at context, the comparison falls flat. The Black Lives Matter were for those who are underrepresented, trodden on, and disinherited, whereas Honest Tom claimed that the Capitol was just about a fantasy. Then Honest Tom went on to mention Honest Tom is no informed youth with the capital INH. And yes, so Honest Tom, we got a shout out in the paper, and I was excited about that. But I did want to talk about some of these things that Honest Tom said in this article. So first, I want to show you this video, and I've got a couple videos I want to show you, and we don't have to watch the whole thing, but this is just a clip showing a lot of what's happened with. So what you've seen a lot in the news is about how the left believes that Donald Trump incited an insurrection that is enough to be impeached for. So if you just take a second to watch this video, this is just about like some of the Black Lives Matter that's happened.
Domestic enemies are right at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue with their allies in the Congress.
I think Democrats are ignoring this problem.
The NYPD is reporting 28 shootings from just over the weekend. That's a 600% increase.
We're seeing the same thing here in Los Angeles. Our homicides have been up 32%.
I thought Eric Garcetti's been doing what he's done.
Yeah, 4 blocks in Seattle that you just saw pictures of that is more like a block party.
We had 2 murders, multiple shootings, rape, robbery, assault.
We need to completely dismantle the Minneapolis Police Department.
We need a revolution in order to overthrow this system, bring a whole new communist world into being.
Fundamentally transform the country. We ain't gonna wait for the next election. We about to go get that mother.
Alright, so that's just a video showing some of what's happened with the, with the riots over the summer and spring. So my question for you, Mr. Robinson, is tell me, why do you think that is better or allowed compared to what happened at the Capitol?
I don't really have much thoughts on that. I mean, that was a video that was put out by Steve Scalise, who it says is, whatever his title was.
The Republic.
Yeah, okay. So I guess my gist of that is, we can put out a video like that paints a picture. But to say that that is the entire story is misleading. To say that that is, that is what everything was like is accurate.
True, and there were peaceful protests, and there have been, and I respect those, and the president respected those, and he said multiple times that he supported the peaceful protesters, but a lot of the time I watched late into many nights over the spring and summer, cities were burned, people were shot, police
Fair
were
enough.
attacked.
But if you're going to put out a story, like a video like this, like as a newspaper, I couldn't put out a video like that because it wouldn't be an accurate portrayal of what happened necessarily. It would be one that's intended. Like, what do you think the purpose of that video was?
To show the violence that Black Lives Matter and Antifa were causing.
Okay, yeah, I agree with that. With what, and then that would then generate a response or a feeling of that's wrong.
Right.
Okay.
Do you believe that's wrong, what you saw right there?
I don't, well, I mean, the violence is never good.
Right.
You know, regardless of what side
Right.
is serving it.
We can agree on that.
But if we're gonna say that across the board, what was happening at every protest, I think that would be somewhat misleading.
But that is the violent part of what happened at a lot of the protests. Now, the question comes to, if you look, there have been many pro-Trump rallies and pro-election integrity rallies that did not get violent. This did happen. The president condemned it, yet they're trying to impeach him for inciting violence. So, my question is, what makes this different? This happened on many occasions, and while it wasn't the whole time, it was many times, whereas this happened one main time at the Capitol.
What preceded, what sparked the Black Lives Matter protest?
It would have been the death of George Floyd, which we can
Or,
both agree was
or, you know, you can go back before that, you got Breonna Taylor.
Right.
You got Trayvon Martin. What preceded January 6th?
Well, that would have been the calls that there is, and the evidence that there was. I have evidence, and I will share it with you here in just a few minutes.
If there, all right, that's okay. That's fine.
We'll get to that here in just a minute. But staying on this Black Lives Matter here. At the Capitol, many people on the left are saying that everyone who was involved with the rally should be arrested. Everyone who was in the Capitol should be arrested. Do you believe that? Do you believe that?
Do I believe that everyone who is at the rally on January 6th should be arrested?
Yes.
I really have no thoughts on that. I mean, I feel like there need to be some consequences. But if you was like out on the fringe saying like, oh wait, this might not be a very good idea, then probably not.
Well, there were actually a lot of those, and I'm going to show you that. But do you believe everyone that was at the Capitol was a Trump supporter? Like, there are reports that Antifa and Black Lives Matter infiltrated and led some of those charges. Do you not believe that?
Honestly, I don't, haven't researched it that much.
Well, I've got one other video for you on that. It is right here, and if it'll pull up. But this was a lady. She was initially reported to have been a part of a CNN worker. Well, that was later proven that was a false statement. She did go on CNN. Her name is Jade Sacker. She entered the building. She is a left-wing documentator. She entered with her cameraman, BLM activist John Sullivan, and the argument has been.
What's the point?
Oh, well, the argument has been, well, this just simply proves right here that not everyone at the Capitol was, in fact, a supporter of the president. Now, another question I have for you is, so you said that you do believe there should be consequences. Do you believe everyone that was in the Capitol should be arrested?
I feel like there should be consequences for what happened, but it's kind of inconsequential.
What?
I mean, we had people storming the Capitol. What is that really? What are you hoping to achieve through this line of questioning?
Through this interview?
Yeah.
I just want to get your side. I'm trying to, through my group, I'm trying to show that we are fair and balanced. We want to see all sides so we can not
I
just
guess
take
here's
our
what
opinion.
my thoughts on it are, it was done, like, I feel like the difference is one precedes the other. You know, what's happening is different than the election didn't go my way, and I'm gonna storm the Capitol, and I feel like the president should have known better than to do what he did.
So I guess my question for you is, say one of my friends is a few states over and he gets shot and killed. Does that give me the right to come here and burn down this business?
So you're saying hypothetically,
In the name of activism, if my friend
you
is
have a
killed,
friend killed where? Like, why would you come here and burn this business down?
well, I don't know. George Floyd was not killed in all the states that were burned, in the cities that were burned. He was killed in one city.
I
And
guess what we're talking about is how folks have been treated for years and years and years, and they're tired and fed up. And it's like, you got Rodney King back in the 90s who was beaten, and then the police get off. And here we are in 2021 now, and not much has changed. And I think it's just a feeling of again, I'm not African American, so I wouldn't want to speak to them. If you wanted to get their thoughts on it, that's fine. But
and I'll need to
But
do
I
that
guess,
for another video at some point. But
the feeling would be that, like, nothing has changed, and it's like I empathize with them and what they have to go through. And I would be more apt to support their cause than the January 6th cause.
right, and you know, the media has hidden a lot of stuff about the election, and I'm going to show you some of that here in just a few. But and we can both agree there has been events and police brutality and George Floyd and the events before with Rodney King and all those things. And we can both agree that police brutality is a horrible thing, but I do not believe it justifies burning entire cities.
Not like an entire city got
Well, they
burned. That's
burned.
quite a bit of an
Actually, there's a
overstatement, isn't it?
picture of Washington D.C. During the summer, and there's a whole street burning right in front of the Washington Monument. But so let's go ahead and move on. About those, there have been. You say that the president should have known better. Do you believe he incited violence?
I think what he did can be interpreted in a lot of ways, kind of like what's happening in there.
Right, and these quotes, I mentioned quite a few quotes in an article, and then Honest Tom said that I took the quotes, quote, out of context, or no, he said, it's pretty easy to get a biased narrative across in an echo chamber that you create so long as you cherry pick your quotes and leave out what doesn't work for what you're trying to spin. So that and then he said we were misleading intentionally. So I went back and did my research even more on these quotes, and I wanted to give you some of the sources where I got them.
You don't have to do that.
Oh, well, no, I just want to, just a couple of them. Ayanna Pressley, the U.S. representative, she said there needs to be unrest in the streets as long as there is unrest in our lives, and unfortunately there's plenty to go around. That was taken from a clip from MSNBC.
Do you disagree with that then?
I do disagree with the fact there should be, well, no,
So basically, in what context? Who was she talking to? when
she
said
was
it?
talking to, she said as long as there is unrest, then there should be unrest in the streets. You can
And-
take that as peaceful or
Okay.
violent.
What I'm saying is, when did she say this? And
This
who did
was-
she say it to? Like, was she saying this, Anna Presley, and she's congressman of what?
Representative
Representative of who?
of the United States. I mean, she's just a state representative who said this on MSNBC.
But for what state? I mean, was she in?
She was talking nationally.
What I'm saying is she like, representing the district where George was at, you know what I'm saying? And so she's like right there at the epicenter of where this is happening, or is she from Louisville where, you know, I mean, there's a lot, could be more going on than
Right, you
just
can
she's A, B, C, you know?
Right, you can find all this out, but the biggest problem I have with these is the president said, while he said you should go and you should march and you should march, he also said you should do it peacefully. None of these people said you should do it peacefully. In fact, Chris Cuomo said, show me where it says protests are supposed to be polite and
News
peaceful.
from CNN.
He said, show me where a protest is supposed to be polite and peaceful. That is the direct opposite. He's saying protests do not have to be polite and peaceful. But in fact, the First Amendment
What
says
did
that
he
protests.
say?
He said, show me where it says protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful. That was his direct quote.
In what context? What's he talking about?
Black
there?
Lives Matter.
So it was a editorial on CNN about that?
Yes, he was talking on CNN about the riots.
And an editorial? Or like opinion piece, basically.
Well, it was just, I would think it was
Like, it
just
wouldn't
one
be
of
a
his
direct-
opening segments.
Yeah, and CNN is,
Left wing, yeah.
well, it's a news show, but I mean, is that guy known for like being an actual, like, he's not Tom Brokaw? is he?
He's not a reporter, but he
Okay.
does. But
So
he
I mean,
does,
there's the context there is like,
do you believe protests should be peaceful?
I'm not really much of a protester myself.
Right. Well,
You know, I don't like getting out there and yelling at folks.
right. Right. Well, I mean, if a protest,
Ideally, it should be peaceful,
it should be peaceful.
but I guess even Martin Luther King got to the point where he said,
Well, he
You know.
advocated for peaceful protests.
well, I
he
think
was
he
against
even
riots.
understood that, like, at some point, that doesn't work, right?
Actually, we can look up some of his quotes, but I know he was directly against rioting. And the last quote, or there's two more. Loretta Lynch, former U.S. Attorney General, she said there will be blood in the streets. That was a quote I used. And then when I looked, another quote of hers that's very similar said, and I'm paraphrasing for this quote, but she said, as long as they marched, bled, and gave their lives, it is worth it. And she was in the context, because you're asking about context, it was a conversation about getting Trump out of office. And she said, they should march, bleed, and give their lives. She said other people have done it, and every time they've done it, every good thing is worth it, even if people die. This clip was actually on the U.S. Senate Democratic Facebook.
Okay. Well, again, though, I guess what I would hope for you, and I'm glad that you're interested in journalism, but there's a difference between journalism, you know, the straight writing news, and what that video that we saw at the beginning is what Chris Cuomo is doing and what you're doing on your site at the moment. Like, if your goal is to be like Chris or Tucker Carlson or one of those, like a pundit, okay. But that's not necessary. Like in news, you gotta go out and get interview folks, you gotta get context. So if I'm gonna say, I wouldn't wanna put a quote in there that this is what she said to, like, I can't use that to prove my point, you know, I have to be honest with the reader.
My point
And-
here is that the left side is saying that the president saying that you should march peacefully is inciting violence, while they said all of these quotes which they say is
So that's
allowed.
basically what
A double
aboutism,
standard.
right?
A
That's
double
basically saying like, okay, this happened, but what about this over here? And what does that accomplish? That accomplishes nothing.
I don't believe the president incited violence, so I don't believe this happened.
You don't believe what happened.
I don't believe he incited violence.
But the result was what it was.
The result was violence, but not because of him. He did not say go break into the Capitol. He said march
That's-
peacefully into the streets.
He said a lot of things during that we don't need to get into.
They were actually breaking
But
into
my
the
point-
Capitol before his speech ended. Did
And
you
I
know
think what the writer was getting at here
Mhm.
is if you want to do journalism, great, but it takes a lot of work and it's hard.
that? Oh, research, yes, definitely.
And what you're doing right now ain't that.
It's not research.
It's not news. It's not going to make an impact. And all this does is serve to get across an agenda that you want to get across. And like, it used to be that Mike Wallace was the most trusted man in America. Is that right, Dee? I got that right, Mike Wallace, the old newscaster?
Yeah, but I don't like him.
Okay,
Didn't
he
like him.
doesn't like him, but that's all right. But I mean, this was a guy that everybody knew they could go on TV and watch this fella.
Right.
And he was gonna tell them straight up what's happening.
Straight up news.
And so you can get that, and like, we can't sit here and say like, I guess it gets to a point where, you gotta be real careful about what you're watching and what is news these days, and I think today we struggle with that. Like, we have so much information in our pockets, you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
and online, and it's so hard to find just straight news, because it's hard. But I think you could do it, and I just think you could do better than what you're doing.
Well, my goal in writing this initial article that you read and then wrote about in here
I didn't
was
write
to,
that on his phone.
Honest Tom wrote about in here, was to expose a double standard. As my site, one of the things it brings up first is investigate, expose, and inform. That's what my goal as a reporter is to do, is bring out what CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, what they will not cover. Because that's what needs to be seen by the people.
What do you think this community is?
This community, as in the Monroe County.
Yeah, is that gonna help Monroe County?
Well,
I mean, I think here's what I think. If you wanna do journalism, then do it, but don't be a pundit, you know? Don't be like somebody who's just gonna spit out,
facts.
like what you did with that article about what the left does, you know? We could like easily Google left saying this, that, or the other, and you're gonna find what you wanna find, you know? But to say that there wasn't if those sentences were picked to specifically get across what you wanna get across. I mean, you could have easily done a story that said, look, the left encourages peaceful stuff too, right?
I could have.
And would Fox News cover that? But we don't care about that.
Well, Fox News actually.
I mean, I guess what I would hope for you to get out of this would be that there is ways to write journalism and do it, and then there's this which angle you're going, and if that's what you want to do, cool. But there's people who are a dime a dozen, and they ain't helping much these days. One of my favorite videos, if you want to watch a video, one we should watch is, you know Jon Stewart, you know who he is?
Mhm.
He used to
I
have a
think I've heard the
daily
name.
show, okay? And there was a show back in the day called Hardball, and it was Tucker Carlson versus Chris Matthews. So Tucker's on the left, or right, excuse me,
Right.
and the other fellow's on the right. Basically, they sit there and they have a spirited debate, right? What all they're doing is throwing shade on each other, you know, to use a popular term. I think that's a popular term, using more than I.
Yeah, I've heard.
And Jon Stewart, who is a comedian, goes on there and basically tells them, like, what are you doing? Like, why can't you just cover news and bring good stuff out? You know, inform people properly. And they did not enjoy that very much. But that, to me, that's what needs to get done. We got so many Rachel Maddows and all these people who are basically just gonna give you one side, and there ain't enough voice who's just gonna inform you without spinning crap all over the place.
Right. Oh, I agree with
And
that.
it's like, as a newspaper, I wouldn't want to spin crap. And I've got answers, because if I'm wrong, then I gotta put a correction in there, and I face consequences. And it's like, all these people can go out there and say whatever they want, and there's no consequences to being right or wrong, or making stuff up, or whatever. And I think you can do better
Well,
than following that route.
thank you very much, but my goal with the article is I'm trying to show that either side cannot, the left cannot have the double standard that they say the right is inciting violence when they are also inciting violence, but they're going to the extent, this is why it's important, you said why does that matter? They are trying to impeach a president for something that they themselves have done, but they will not say that they incited violence. The president, I do not see that he did incite violence. I do not see that. And
But
they
if-
cannot,
if
it is
you
a
could-
threat to democracy is the
If
problem.
you can read between the lines here, well, don't you think it's pretty easy to read between the lines of what the president said, in addition to go up there peacefully?
He said, go there.
You
Even
can
if
read
he did.
between the lines
Sure.
of what he said. I mean, he was talking, I don't have it in front of me, but I feel like he said some stuff about,
He said you should fight like heck. That's
strength.
what they've
He talks
run
about
with.
how important strength is.
Strength.
And I don't know, I think that you could easily read between the lines, and he should have known better, that's all I'm saying. He should have known a lot better. See, he should have known that he had a powder keg in his hand, and he could have done something to defuse it, or he can throw a match on it.
I mean, we can disagree with that, or we can disagree on that and
Yeah,
agree to
but-
disagree. But the one last thing I want to point out is the president, even if he would have said that,
We're talking Trump, right?
yeah, even if
He
he
ain't
would,
president no more.
the former president, even if he would have, at the time he was the president, even if he would have incited violence, if
Mhm.
that's the path they want to take, there are a lot of impeachment trials that should be coming up if they're going to do it fairly, because the president did not say
I
there
think
should
it's
be
not
blood
gonna
in the
matter
streets.
what impeachment's not gonna matter.
Yeah, it's unconstitutional, in fact.
Well, I'm just saying it's not gonna matter, because it doesn't matter what he did, if there ain't enough people to convict him to do so.
Oh, yeah.
Just like the first time,
Right.
it doesn't make a difference whether he did what they said he did or didn't.
So you admit that it's a waste of taxpayer dollars run by your side, specifically, the left is pushing the impeachment, whereas the country is in an economical crisis right now, and it
Mhm.
is a waste of millions of dollars.
Well, I couldn't say how much it cost to do it.
Well, the last time it cost millions of dollars.
Did it? Well,
Yeah.
Where'd that money go? Sounds like we're getting fleeced here, folks.
Yes, it does.
I mean, especially since like they's all hanging out there anyways. Like, why would it cost millions of dollars since they're all there anyways? So instead of like wasting our money, we're gonna waste that money regardless. So.
Well, I mean, they wouldn't pass the stimulus, and that was partially the Republicans too. I'm not a Republican, I am a conservative in my beliefs. The Republicans, I line up with them more than the Democrats, but they've got a lot of problems which have been exposed. Now, switching gears, I do have, and I said I was gonna come back to this, what, do you believe there was voter fraud? That's the
No.
question.
No, I don't.
No?
Really. No.
Why not?
Well, I think if we, and when I say we, I shouldn't, because we really shouldn't, I shouldn't speak for all Democrats, you know.
Right.
But I think if I was going to mastermind a scheme to do this, why would I just get rid of Trump? Why wouldn't I get rid of McConnell and Bill Johnson, you know?
Well,
Why-
they did
Why-
keep
but why
control of
wouldn't
the
we-
House, and they
but
gained
why
the
would-
Senate.
But they did lose a bunch of seats, right? So their
But they're
majority
still in
was
control.
here. Well, why wouldn't
Still
we
have
go
authority.
all out with it? It doesn't make a lot of sense.
If you'd go all out, it would be very, very clear that there was cheating.
Mm-hmm.
If you'd go all out on that. That's why, if you keep it lower, but there's been a lot of evidence. And these are factual pieces of evidence that I have found from all types of different sources, and I just want to share them with you. A lot of them are statistics. Some are caught on video. You can find them yourself before they're probably taken down by Twitter, but I've seen them, so I'm just going to share them with you. Did even more research. The Michigan Secretary of State was caught on video telling the volunteers, the ballot workers, to count multiple ballots with the same signatures multiple times, so running them in and out. Caught on video during the audit. Photos show Michigan voters that were older than the oldest people on earth. I can get you that photo if you want it, but they're dead is what that means. Sworn affidavits under penalty of perjury, there are thousands of them, and one said during the water main break in Georgia, which they claim did not happen, and they later revealed did not happen, 18,000 hidden ballots were retrieved and counted for Joe Biden, which is a statistical impossibility. Not sure if you're a baseball
So a
fan,
water
but
main broke
yeah,
and
remember?
voted for Joe Biden.
No. Do you remember when that happened on election night? They said we cannot have our
When the
results
water
for
main
this
broke.
county. Trump was winning Georgia. The water main broke. They said we're going to have to shut
Georgia
down
the
and come
country
back
or
tomorrow.
Georgia the state?
Georgia the state.
Okay.
Um,
And a water main.
and then when everything came back, suddenly Joe Biden had 18,000 more hidden ballots. That's the equivalent to pitching 4 perfect
What does the
baseball games.
water
in a row.
main have to do with it?
When the water main broke, the results for Georgia were about to come in. The water main broke, and they said, all right, we're going to need to shut down. We'll come back tomorrow. And when they came back, Biden was ahead. That's what happened.
Why would a water main have anything to do with counting the ballot?
Because during that time, 18,000 votes came in, all for Biden, none for Trump, which,
Well,
as
what
you
I'm
can
saying
see,
is,
that doesn't happen.
what do these two
In one
things
county.
have to do with each other? Like,
It
why
gives them the opportunity to shut down voting.
whatever.
The United States Postal Service employees have sworn that they helped backdate ballots and transport them across state lines. Videos have shown, you might have seen this one, suitcases of Biden votes that were pulled from under the table in Georgia after the Republicans had left. Project Veritas, which is a group that exposes things like this, showed...
We should be mindful that hasn't Project Veritas been caught doing some underhanded stuff?
that I know of, they do stuff like infiltrate businesses and...
Well, haven't they been caught doing some sketchy stuff, like trying to, like, they would throw somebody out there and, like, what is it called, like entrapment kind of stuff? Haven't they done stuff like that?
They've been sued a few times.
What, alright, well, just saying, they ain't necessarily on the up and up.
Sure, you may not consider them the best source, you may or you may not, but anyway, they released a video showing a woman claiming that she did participate in voter fraud and she was later arrested. So no matter how good of a source they are, she was still arrested under those charges. In Philadelphia, they were unconstitutional during the voting because they blacked out Philadelphia windows so people could not see. We have something in the country where we have election integrity, we can see in the rooms, and they broke the law, and after the Republicans came back with signed papers from judges saying we are allowed to get in, they still would not let them in. They also, and I don't know, I doubt this is a legal thing there in Philadelphia, but Mom signed up to work with the election group and be a poll worker, and they said you are not allowed to wear anything in support of a candidate, and people that are coming in to vote cannot show their support in merchandise, right? So,
Yeah, you're not supposed to,
right,
wear
so,
election shirts when you go vote.
so in Philadelphia, there were pictures of them with Biden. The people that were locking out the Republicans were wearing Biden hats, shirts, Biden merchandise, Biden masks, all of that.
Biden back.
Yeah, I mean,
They was fixing to go rob banks afterwards, I figured.
but Dominion, in Michigan alone, a lot of people say there was no glitch in 3 a.m., but there were a lot of votes changed right at 3 a.m., and you can see. But, so in Michigan, it was equivalent. For every vote, it's like flipping a coin. One heads, Biden, tails, Trump. The statistical probability was 4,645,908 times, and 52% were for Biden. So you can accept that as reasonable. That's about 50-50 both times. But then at 3 a.m., it was like, so 154,000 more votes came in. It was like flipping that coin 154,000 more times. And it would have been landing on Biden every single time, 154,000 times. That's not even, that's statistically impossible.
Alright, okay, whatever. Do you think it's possible that a guy who lost the first time by however many million is possible that he could lose again?